Hey, I'm Stewart from Turbosmart and welcome to PRI 2024. At the show this year, we've got a general offering of our parts. We've got the turbochargers that we've had for a year now. We've got our wastegates, blow-off valve, fuel pressure regulators, OPRs, e-boosts, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got new products as well. This year, we've released a bunch of compressed gas wastegates, both poppet and straight gate. And then we've got some new products with straight gate in an electric actuator. We've also got our new e-boost 3, as well as oil caps and some other little bits and pieces. So the first product that we're going to talk about today is our CO2 wastegate with an integrated cap. We've made a CO2 straight gate. We didn't originally design for the straight gate to have a CO2 actuator on it, but our customers are using it anyway. So we've had to reconfigure that actuator to be able to handle the CO2 more. We've switched some chambers around and the lever arm, there's some stuff that's a bit backwards on it that makes it work with the CO2. While we're doing that, because the straight gate doesn't have back pressure operating on it like a poppet valve, it's a little bit more sensitive to the way you control it. So when we were testing the CO2, we realised that we could actually use solenoids that were tuned to that actuator. So we've done an integrated cap with solenoid that's actually matched to the wastegate. It's a neater package, everything's all in one, and from that, we actually expanded that into the poppet wastegate. So it was one thing led to another, it's kind of snowballed, and we're trying to offer a complete solution for the guys that are running CO2. And a lot of people run it, it works well, we're just trying to support that. If you've got your own solenoids, you've got to get your own connections together, you've got a lot of fittings, you've got two solenoids, a sensor, you're going to do that remotely and then you're going to send that signal or that pressure to the wastegate. You've got a lot of back and forward, you've got a lot of fittings, a lot of connections, a lot of failure points. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to simplify that. You're going to use less equipment getting it running, and you, as I said before, you've got less failure points. And then what we've tried to do ourselves is to characterize that solenoid so that we can recommend settings for it to get you up and running faster. If you've got a drag car, you've got a certain amount of times that you can run that car. How many runs is it going to take to sort out just your CO2 controller? If we can get people up and running a little bit faster and a little bit smoother and neater with that, then why not? For the CO2, especially with the straight gate, you've got a very wide range of pressures that you can run. You've got less connections, you've got better integration as far as how does that solenoid work with that housing. You can buy all the stuff from one place and we know that it all works together. So we're cutting down on the amount of time and the amount of risk that you're going to take running CO2. We're just trying to help out the customers. We've got 4 on display. This one here is probably how this project started. From there, we've also got people that are running CO2 on the cold side through a straight gate. We've just put this new actuator onto our cold side wastegate, and you can see here we've also done it in the 50mm and the 76mm. So there's all those different options. We're just trying to make sure that you got what you need. And then, as I said, while we're at it, we did the integrated solenoids on the poppet. If you're already running a poppet style wastegate and you've got all your manifolds, yeah, it's just easier to continue running that, and they still work pretty good. The straight gate obviously has advantages in the fact that you can run such a wide range of boost pressures and that you've got a higher flow rate. We can flow more through the butterfly style wastegate than we can through the poppet. E-boosts came out in 2003, so it's 21 years old. We have been back and forward about making a new e-boost for a long time now. The existing one works fine, everyone loves it, but we needed to make sure that we've got the right reason to do an e-boost 3. With the introduction of the electric wastegates, we've come up with the requirement to do a new e-boost. While we're at it, we wanted to improve the interface and add some more features. So e-boost 3, it has a colour screen, has a rotating dial for selecting your settings. It's got LEDs around the side so you can use the shift light, so that's all integrated. It's going to be able to do closed loop boost control, and it's going to do CO2 boost control, and it's going to be able to, through our black box, control all of our electronic wastegates, as well as it's going to have the exact features that the original e-boost used to have, and it's actually going to use the same plug. So if you have an e-boost 2, you can unplug it, plug this one in. Any of the new features will be in a second plug, but it's very much an upgrade from the e-boost 2 with all the stuff that you might have wanted it to have over the years. We've tried to get as much of that in as we can. It's also going to have CAN bus, so over time we'll be able to do upgrades and have connections to it, and it's going to be field updatable, so you'll be able to update the firmware in it as well. We know about boost control with wastegates and stuff. This helps your average person, your average enthusiast, be able to make those changes to their vehicle, and we try and make that as easy as possible for people to set up what they need. It's a pretty basic operating system, so for you to be able to go and get an electronic wastegate or CO2, any of that kind of stuff, you don't have to be, the expert of experts to be able to get this stuff up and running and make changes on the fly at a race meeting. You don't have to be able to unlock the ECU and go through all the tables and bits and pieces like that. What we've got here is our modular straight gate, or MSG. It makes wastegates taste better. What we're doing here is we're integrating our, once again, the straight gate with a factory electronic actuator. So we've got different brackets and different mounting systems for Honda, BMW and VW, and you can take off your factory wastegate actuator and you can put it on our external wastegate. Because the straight gate is not affected by back pressure, then you can use the factory actuator and it won't be overcome by high boost pressures. So you can maintain your factory boost control, you can maintain all your factory things like shift cut, launch control, stability control, the ECU, obviously with some retuning. You do need some good ability to do that, but you can integrate it into a factory ECU and get that up and running, or if you want to, you can use this setup with an aftermarket ECU. It's lower current than our standard straight gate. Obviously it's not water cooled, it's not quite as powerful, so it's a good option to our existing electronic straight gate. The return of an oldie but a goodie in the fact that we've bought back our oil cap that we used to sell probably 10 years ago. We were making oil caps. What this oil cap has is a replaceable center section. So what you can do, the standard one will come with the center section in it. You can rotate it around, so once the oil cap's tight, it's in the right spot, because that's very important. But what you can do if you need to is you can swap out that center section with a bunch of different fittings that we've made. And the reason why that happened was our previous turbo oil pressure regulator, the OPR, the version 1, had a return on it. And a lot of people were struggling with, how do I get a return somewhere on their car? And we made this with the return hole in it as an option for that. But before we'd finished working on that, we came up with the new OPI, the V2, that doesn't need a return. So this has been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years. We thought, hey, it's still a good idea because you can use it as a breather, you can use it as a return, you can just use it as a sensor port. There's a lot of different options of things that you can do, and it looks cool and it's fun. You can measure crankcase pressure. We use that on a lot of our own vehicles. We're measuring crankcase pressure, and this is going to make it easier because we were getting our old oil caps and drilling and tapping a hole in them so that we can measure crankcase pressure on our project cars. It's been a year since we have released our turbo range, and man, it's been a heck of a year. We've had a lot of people testing and a lot of good results out of the turbochargers. Everyone's really happy with the fact that because the turbos are so responsive, they can go up a size and still have the transient response that they have from their smaller turbo while making more power. We've got a couple of new turbine housing options with divided in our mid-size frame. We've got a 8.2 and a 1.0. We're doing a 114 and a 124, and we're going to also have some divided housings in our larger range. We've also done a oil filter, or neatly integrated into the turbocharger, and when someone buys that and uses that, we're going to add 1 year to the warranty. We've just been adding some rear housings and a couple of different sizes within our existing offerings. So we're trying to make sure that we've shored up what we've actually started with. Obviously from there we'll grow out, but it takes a little bit of time. You know, a new turbocharger frame size is a lot of work. We've been working on making sure that what we're doing now, that we've got all the options for our customers before we start firing off all over the place. We're trying to be focused.